So I want to welcome all of you to the Mandate with MaShani Allen. This is our weekly Bible study. And I am so excited about the teaching and the series that we are going into starting today. Now, I have been in ministry for quite some time. And as of late, I have noticed that we teach, we preach, we study a lot, but what I don't see a lot of is us studying Jesus. I hear more people reference themselves to being like Deborah or being like David or being like Jeremiah or being like Paul, but our template and our model is Jesus. All of the people that I've mentioned and so many more people in the Bible, they are great, they were needful, and they were on purpose. But at the end of the day, our model is Jesus. So I developed this way of studying the Bible a few years ago. And some of you may not know, but I was a journalism major. And with journalism, we have the five W's: who, what, where, when, why. And then you got to add the H, which is how. So I have taken that approach when it comes to studying the Bible as well. So I am excited to share this new approach for some of you, this new approach of studying the Bible. I'm excited to share this with you all today. Now, with us taking this journey to study Jesus, as I was meditating, as I was thinking about this topic and this subject, and us really getting into the Word to really get a greater understanding and increase our knowledge of who Jesus is, I saw this time that we have together almost like a vow renewal. And most times we know when people have been married for a certain period of time, they reach these what can be considered as these milestones. And it can be 10 years, 25 years, 50 years, and some people just choose a number themselves. But generally, with these milestones, what they are doing is that they are acknowledging their love for each other, and they are making a fresh and a new commitment to get to know each other, to love each other better. Sometimes it's to for a clean slate, letting the past be the past, and we're starting afresh and we're starting anew. So I kind of want you to have that perspective as we delve into studying Jesus. This is not to negate or to disregard any studies you've done before, any teachings you've heard before. But I believe that sometimes there comes a moment when we need something fresh and we need something new. And we need something that even challenges what we have come to know that may not be him. So that is what we are going to be doing. So um, I just really want us all to be able to discover him in a fresh way, in a new way. And I know that his word is what will do that for us. For some of us, it's not so much the discovery, it may be to realize that the lens through which we have been hearing, or the lens through which we have been looking, may be a little skewed, and we may need another perspective or a new lens altogether in regards to him. But at the end of the day, my prayer is that all of us will be changed for the better as a result. So as I was like, okay, so we're going to start with Jesus, but there's so many places where we can start. Where should we start this teaching? And oh my God, I have been lit all day, excited about this teaching. I was driving through the canyon, sending myself text messages because the downloads was just coming. And I was like, this is going to be so, so good. So some of you have not taken my classes or have not been a student of mine. I highly recommend that you have pen and paper. I highly recommend that you have a journal, because I do give homework. Yes, I do give homework. So we are going to start with Matthew 16, verses 13 through 17. Again, we are looking at Matthew 16, verses 13 through 17. And I am going, sorry, my Bible just fell. I am going to read that for you all in the, I think I have the New King James Version. We're going to start with that version first. And it reads as follows. When Jesus came into the region of Caesarea Philippi, he asked his disciples, saying, "Who do men say that I, the Son of Man, am?" I want you to pay attention to this question. Jesus asked his disciples, "Who do men say that I, the Son of Man, am?" So they said, some say John the Baptist, some Elijah, and others Jeremiah or one of the prophets. Now, when we look at verse 14, it doesn't say which disciples gave which answer. So we don't know if all of them gave answers or if one or a few gave answers, but for whatever reason, it was not recorded which disciple or disciples said which one, which person was attributed to him. Verse 15, he said to them, "But who do you say that I am?" I want you to hold on to that question. Verse 16, Simon Peter answered and said, "You are the Christ, the Son of the living God." Jesus answered and said to him, "Blessed are you, Simon Bar-Jonah, for flesh and blood has not revealed this to you, but my Father who is in heaven." Now, what I find so interesting is Jesus posed two questions to people who had been following him for quite some time. And I think that's important because sadly, questions are disregarded. They're not embraced in a lot of spheres. Unfortunately, some people fear questions. And I've even had people share with me that they've been told that they can't ask questions. I love to send people right here. Because Jesus asks questions. So if Jesus can ask questions, everybody can ask questions. But this is what I want you all to hear. Again, these were men who had been following Jesus for some time. And he asked of them, "Who do men say that I am? And who do you say that I am?" So to really give us some depth on where they were coming from with their response, I think it is important to look at all they had experienced Jesus doing before he posed this question. Okay. Now, in chapter 4 of this same book, Matthew chapter 4, we see that Jesus healed the multitude. They were a part of that. In chapter 5, 6, and 7, they hear Jesus giving the Beatitudes. They were a part of that. In chapter 8, he healed the leper. In chapter 8, he healed the centurion. In chapter 8, these same men witnessed the wind and the waves obeying Jesus. Then at the end of that, we see also in Matthew chapter 8 that Jesus delivered 2 demon-possessed men. Let's go to chapter 9. In chapter 9, he healed the paralytic man. In chapter 9, he healed the woman with the issue of blood. In chapter 9, he healed the little girl who they thought was dead, that he was going to see before the women with the issue of blood stopped him. He healed her too. In chapter 9, he healed 2 blind men. In chapter 9, a mute man began to speak. Also, in chapter 9, we see that Jesus was moved with compassion. What I'm sharing with you all is the history that they had with Jesus before he asked them this question. Then we get to chapter 10. In chapter 10, the 12 disciples become apostles and he sends them out 2 by 2. In chapter 11, they heard the proclamation from Jesus about who John the Baptist really was, because a lot of people didn't know. They knew what he was doing, but they didn't know the view of God and the view of Jesus and heaven regarding John the Baptist. In chapter 12, he healed on the Sabbath. In chapter 13, they heard him sharing multiple parables in chapter 13. In chapter 14, Jesus fed the 5,000. In chapter 14, Jesus walked on water. In chapter 15, Jesus fed the 4,000. What I just shared with you all was the history that they had with Jesus before he posed the question. So sometimes we assume that because people have a history, that means they have an understanding and a knowledge. But we clearly see some were able to share what people said, but it was one who had an understanding of who he really was. So being around and seeing does not mean that you fully know. But I believe as we are doing this Bible study, just like the question was posed to the disciples, I believe that same question right here today, March 17th, 2022, is being posed to us. But I think there's a few addendums to the question. But literally, think about this. Who do men say for us in our lives? Who do men say that the Son of Man is? But also, who does the church say the Son of Man is? Who does religion say the Son of Man is? Who does the world say the Son of Man is? How did they come to these conclusions? When you look at who the disciples said the Son of Man was, they provided templates and they provided shadows, but he was the real deal. And he is our model. Now, I love different translations of the Bible, and I had to find another version and listen to what the Voice version of the Bible, how the Voice version of the Bible reads this same passage. Jesus then went to Caesarea Philippi. Jesus to his disciples, who do people say that the Son of Man is? And this is a legit question that we can ask ourselves. Who do people say Jesus is? Who does the church say Jesus is? Who does religion say Jesus is? Who does the world say that Jesus is? But listen to this. Disciples, some say John the Baptist, and some say Elijah, and some say Jeremiah or one of the other prophets. And here we have Jesus. And you, who do you say that I am? Peter, you are the anointed one. You are the Son of the living God. Verse 17, Jesus, Simon, son of Jonah, your knowledge is a mark of blessing. For you didn't learn this truth from your friends or from teachers or from sages you've met on the way, You learned it from my Father in heaven. Isn't that powerful? So this leads me to pose this question. Does the bulk of our knowledge of who Jesus is come from flesh and blood, come from friends or teachers, or from God himself? When we look at this verse, again in the King James Version, he says, flesh and blood has not revealed this to you. And I really believe that we are at a time when Jesus wants to be revealed to us in a fresh way and in a new way. And if our lens, if the people, the systems through which we learned about Jesus, if they were skewed, if they were tainted, if they were biased, when we have that view of Jesus from those lenses, we can have that same view of God. And my question is, for those who did teach us, for those who did train us, was it the word of God? Was it opinion? Was it perspective? Was it experience? And I'm not saying that it's bad or it's wrong, but what I am saying is we need to take a consideration of what we have come to know, and through the word of God ourselves determine, is that really Jesus? You know, as I think about this, I was born and raised in the church, born and raised. And I am sad to say that the one characteristic that signifies Jesus the most is the characteristic I saw the least, and that was love. So a lot of us have been introduced to Jesus, but it hasn't been the Jesus of the Bible that we read. And there comes a point and there comes a time when he wants to be revealed to us in a fresh way, in a new way, through his word. Question: who taught you Jesus? And you know, I was talking with my students. I've been talking with my students about this all day today because I've been so excited about this teaching. Who taught you Jesus? Seriously, it's a legit question, because a lot of what we have learned is structure. A lot of what we have learned is tradition. A lot of what we've learned is opinion, but who teaches us Jesus? I disciple people and I send them right to Romans. I have sent people right to Romans instead of sending them right to Jesus. So we have to make Jesus the priority, and the same questions that he asked the disciples, who do men say that I am? We can take time between till the next Bible study, because y'all know I give homework, to write that down. Who do men say that Jesus is? Who does religion say that Jesus is? Who does the world say that Jesus is? Who do systems say that Jesus is? And there is no wrong or right answer. I think some of us might be a little surprised at what we find out in thinking about what have we been told and taught about Jesus from outside. But then there's the part two of that question. Who do you say that Jesus is? And just like I read all the things that the disciples experienced from, what was it? From Matthew, starting with Matthew chapter 4, all the way through to Matthew chapter 16, all those different experiences, all those different encounters that they witnessed with Jesus, those are like our lives. the years of our life, all the different encounters, all the different experience, we are now at this point today, and we can literally ask ourselves, who is Jesus? And not feel bad about what our answer is, because it's not wrong and it's not right. But I think it's fair for us to write where we are right now, because just like Jesus said to Simon, that flesh and blood did not reveal this to you. Wait, hold on, I said it wrong. Yeah, flesh and blood has not revealed this to you. I believe that Christ, Jesus, well, he wasn't Christ then, but Jesus, he's Christ now. Jesus wants to be revealed to us in a fresh way, in a new way, because some of our lenses don't have the right view of him. And he wants to correct, he wants to shift, he wants to change, but knowing where we are, how we see him, how we see who he is the foundation that he can then begin to build upon. So I am so excited for us to study Jesus, the author and the finisher of our faith. It's time for us to know Jesus. We know his name has power, but it is so much more to who, I mean, really breaking down who Jesus is. So I have a feeling that we're going to be stuck on Jesus for quite some time. And I am happy to park myself right here, because everyone else was important and they were needful and necessary. But we need to have our eyes on Jesus. So I hope that you all will continue to join these teachings. Again, let me review the homework for this week. And I want you to really take your time. This isn't to be rushed, but it must be considered, because we are going to build and we are going to break down through the Bible from the old to the new, discovery of who Jesus is. We starting with who first. We need to know who he is first, and then we can get to who, what, where, when, why, and how. But let's really come to a fresh and a new understanding, because our view of Jesus many times is also our view of God. And we want that view to be the right view. So the homework and the questions are, who is Jesus to you? Who taught you Jesus? How did they teach you Jesus? Was it opinion, tradition, or experience? And then the other questions, like, who does the church say Jesus is? Who does religion say Jesus is? And who does the world say Jesus is? I don't believe all the answers are equal, and I don't believe all the answers are the same. So again, there are no wrong and no right answers, but this analysis is based on where you are now, and we will build from there. So I'm going to end our Bible study, and now we will go into our Q&A and our insight.